This is the lecture on chapter 16 dealing with abortion. And we know that abortion is a very controversial subject throughout most of the world. And there are a couple of different opposite approaches that we will talk about in dealing with this whole area of abortion. The arguments about abortion concentrate on three distinct issues. What is the status of the fetus? When is a fetus conscious? When is a fetus viable? When, if ever, does the fetus become a living person? What are the rights of the mother? And when do these rights trump or overrule the rights of the fetus? What would be the effects of making abortion illegal? Will they continue to occur, but with a greatly increased risk to women? Would they only be available to the rich? So the person that takes the anti-abortion view, and that I'm sure you've read about in your textbook, is Don Marquis. And he's a philosopher, and he teaches at the University of Kansas. He's written a book entitled Abortion is Immoral, written in 1989. And he states that the idea that abortion is immoral has not been well supported by philosophical literature. But being against abortion can be a logical, philosophical stance that does not rely on religious dogma or circular arguments. Instead, the argument can be based on the major assumption that killing other human beings is wrong. A necessary condition of solving the abortion controversy is a more theoretical account of the wrongness of killing. The assumption is that it is wrong to kill. And so we might ask, why is it wrong? And the answer would be that it brutalizes the person who kills, that there is a loss to others when the death occurs, and that the loss of life is the greatest loss that a person can suffer. And this explains why we regard killing as one of the worst crimes. The loss of a person's future is a terrible thing. The consequences to abortion of the claim that the primary wrong-making feature of a killing is the loss to the victim of the value of its future. And he says the future of a fetus includes all of the normal aspects of human life. So in essence, what he is saying is that a fetus and a human life are basically one and the same. Since the reason that it is wrong for adults is the same for fetuses, then abortion must be morally wrong. Now there is a opposite view that supports abortion by Professor Bonnie Steinbach. And she has written a book, Why Most Abortions Are Not Working. Most abortions are morally legitimate, written in 1999. There are two considerations. The moral status of the fetus. And so she's dealing with the fetus itself and basically dealing with whether or not the fetus is viable. She places burdens on women by pregnancy and childbirth. Then there is the interest view. Limits moral status of beings who have interest and restricts the possession of interest to conscious, sentient beings. It is not necessarily wrong to kill a non-conscious, non-sentient fetus when or where there is adequate reason for doing so. The moral status of the fetus, and so this deals with the early gestation fetus. Morally, is it morally equivalent to a newborn baby? So she makes the distinction that fetuses are not sentient, so they are not like babies, which are sentient. She goes on to say that sentient beings lack moral status. Therefore, a fetus is not morally equivalent to a newborn child. So you can see that she takes an opposite approach to that of Don Marquis. And the argument from potential. The criticism of the argument that a fetus has the potential to become a sentient person is that, in two-part, does not follow that something is a potential X and should be treated as an actual X. So she does not buy the fact that a fetus is the same as a child. It is not clear why potential personhood attaches only to fertilized eggs, but not unfertilized eggs or sperm. The result in an arbitrary belief that a fetus should be treated differently because of its potential personhood. So as you can see, the difference between the two deals with when actually is a fetus viable. Now Don Marquis would say that the fetus and the child are one and the same, that there's no distinction. Whereas Steinbach would say that there is a distinction or difference, that a fetus potentially may become a child, but has not arrived at that state. And so therein somewhat lies the difference between the two. And the courts have generally followed a similar type of course in determining whether or not an abortion can be considered legal or illegal. Now this concludes our lecture in chapter 16. And so thank you for listening to this, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Goodbye.